Hi, I'm Beth Upstill from West Coast Wool, and today I'm going to teach you how to stitch an embroidered beetle from my new book, Garden of Embroidered Bugs. Let's talk about the supplies that you need for the beetle. You're going to need 2 colors of eleganza pearl cotton. This is a brown that I've chosen. It's EZ42. And I've chosen a variegated green. It's EZ M09. So you're going to need those. You're going to need some needles. A milliner's 3 needle. We're going to use that for our wrap stitches, our bullion knots. You're going to use a chenille 24 needle here. If you need a needle threader, have that handy. You're going to need also a long straight pin. We use this for the woven Picot, and you just need a pair of scissors. And if you have the book, it's on page 23. We're going to stitch this tiger beetle. So the tiger beetle, I'm going to show you one right here. This one is made with 2 different sizes of pearl cotton, but we're going to use the pearl cotton number 8, and we're going to stitch this tiger beetle here. The first stitch we're going to do is the main body, which is the woven Picot. And to do that, you're going to need to use your long pin. So we're going to take our pin and we're going to put it into our fabric here, just like that. And we're going to grab our green and we're going to start the woven Picot. And to do that, we're going to do a 3-spoke woven Picot body. So we're going to come up to the top of your work. We're going to wrap it around and come to the other side. We're going to go just like that. Okay, you want these threads to be even all the way across because we're going to be filling it in. So you've come over and then you're going to come to the top again. And you're going to wrap it around. So now you've got 3 spokes, like that. And you might want to just pull it a little tighter to make sure it's nice and snug, just like that. And then we're going to start the weaving part. And to do that, I like to use the back of my needle, and I'm going to weave under, over, under these spokes to get started. Just like that. Okay. Now it's really important that when you're doing this woven Picot, that when you begin these weaves, that your thread is super close to the top here. If not, you're going to have a little bubble at the end. I call it a blurb, and you won't be happy. So my tip here is to pull really tight. It looks like it's getting distorted, but it won't be. You're going to pull it really tight, and then you're going to weave in the other direction, like this. Okay, now use the back of your needle, and you're going to push these threads up to the top, just like that. And then you'll be able to shape the body of the beetle by using the back of your needle. So if you really wanted it to be a pointed end, you would pull it tighter. If you want it more rounded, you would just use the back of your needle to shape it. And so we're going to weave again, just like that. And we're going to go back and forth. So I'm going to continue back and forth until I fill in all of these spokes here. And you'll get to see the color variation in this green thread as I'm stitching. One of the great things about the eleganza pearl cotton is that it has a short color repeat. So the colors change quicker, which makes your stitches more interesting. And so we're going to keep going back and forth. just like that. And you can see I use my thumbnail to help shape the body of the picot. We're going to keep going back and forth, and take your time with this, and you'll notice that I use the back of my needle almost every time I do a weave because I want it to be nice and snug against the spokes. So where I live, I have a lot of inspiration to draw from because I live on 2 acres and we have lots of critters. And the inspiration for this beetle came when I was out at the pool and there was this big old beetle walking across the sidewalk there. And I thought it would really be fun to kind of recreate a bug that kind of resembled this beetle. And you can stitch these beetles in any color you like. You can keep them dark green. You could do a pink one. Change the colors up a little bit. So we're starting to get into the darker color of this thread. So I'm going to keep stitching this woven picot until I've filled it in and I've come to the end. So what I'll do is I'll keep stitching and then I will come back and we'll talk about the next part. So now we've filled almost this entire area in for the body of the beetle. It's okay to take the pin out and finish filling in. It's really important that you fill in as much as you can fill in. And I pack this in pretty tightly, so I'm gonna just keep stitching until I can't get any more of the thread through these spokes. So I'm gonna keep going here because you want this to be nice and thick filled in. You don't want anything loose. So I'm gonna keep going until I simply just cannot get any more weaves in. Okay, and I think I've just about done it here. Okay, so I've pretty much filled everything in and I'm ready to start the next step. So I'm going to take my needle to the back of my work. So the next part, we are going to stitch some bullion knots to make the head of the beetle. So what I've got here is my milliner's needle number 3 that I just rethreaded, and I'm going to start with a bullion knot that has 16 wraps on it. So we're going to bring our needle to the front and we're going to take a stitch right here at the base of the beetle's body. So one thing to keep in mind when we're doing bullion knots, that when we take our bite here, the number of wraps need to cover this area here. The book says to wrap 16 times, but if you feel like the number of wraps aren't enough, go ahead and wrap 2 more times. So I tell this to everyone that if you're not sure that it's going to fill it, you want to go ahead and wrap a couple of extra times, because your bite might be slightly different than my bite and you just want to make sure you fill this in. So we're going to wrap 16 times and then we're going to look at it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Just like that. And just take a look at it. Make sure all your wraps are to the base of your needle. And I think that'll cover it, but let's just do one more for good measure. And then I'm going to pull my needle through. There we go. Got my little, so that's the first bullion knot, and then I'm going to take my needle to the back of my work here. And then we're going to start the next one. And the next one is 14 wraps. So we're just going to come in just a thread closer. And we're going to do another one right next to the previous, and we're going to wrap. I'm about to run out of thread here, but that's okay because we can make it work. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, so we've got 14 here. We're going to pull our needle through. Pull it tight and take our thread to the back of our work, and we'll tighten this stitch up. Just like that. Okay, so I've got more thread on my needle, and I'm going to make the next bullion knot because we're going to make 4 here. So the next one we're going to make is a 12 wrap, and we're going to come in a little bit more. And we're going to make another one. And just so you know, I'm left-handed, but the bullion knot is made exactly the same even if you're left-handed or right-handed. So it doesn't matter. So you can just see that I'm using my left, but if you use your right, it's the same exact way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. We're going to take our needle to the back, and then we're going to do the final bullion knot, and that's going to be a 10 wrap. So we're going to go in just a little bit further. Just like that. And we're going to wrap 10 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And you notice that I make sure I push my threads all the way down. The wraps are all the way down to the base of the needle. Okay. And then I'm going to take my needle to the back of my work. There we go. So there's the body of the beetle. And if you notice, they're all different shapes. No two are the same. So that makes it very unique. Okay, so I'm ready to weave my threads in on the back here. I don't need to knot. And then we're going to change colors, and then we're going to do the legs. So now we're going to work on the legs. And so you have a couple options here. You can freehand stitch the legs, or you can mark them if that's helpful. You can use the diagram in the book. If you want to mark the legs, I recommend that you use a water-soluble pen, and it's really easy to use. And just to kind of give you an idea, we're going to do some little antennae here. You could mark them if you feel like you want to mark it. The great thing about the pen is that if you mess up, you don't like what you've drawn, it's easy to erase it and start over. Just like that. You could do that. You can do the legs the same way. So if you wanted to draw the legs like this, you can do that. Usually I just eyeball everything and just kind of, decide where you want them to be. And that's kind of helpful. So what we'll do is we'll just stitch these. So the first thing you can do is the little antennae of the bug here. We're just going to do some back stitches. And I've switched to the brown. We can just just like that. So there's that. And now we're going to work on the legs a little. So we're going to just do back stitches here. And you can decide the placement of the legs too. Do like this. And once you've done the legs, and if you did mark them, you can just use the pen to erase your lines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch the legs and then I'll come back. Okay, I have finished stitching the legs on this green beetle. Let's look at some of the other beetles that I've stitched. You can change the size of the thread. This is a size 5 pearl cotton, and make the beetle even bigger. You can stitch a shorter bodied beetle, change the legs out a little if you like. You can also make the beetle shorter and wider and change the stitches a little bit, and you'll see this all in the book. The instructions are on page 23 of the book. The book is spiral bound, so it lays nice and flat when you're using it. The way I've laid it out, I've included the thread that I used, the needles that are used, detailed instructions on how to make each bug, and also some optional ways that you can change things out to make it your own. There's a diagram for each bug that will allow you to just look at it and stitch bugs much faster once you've done it one time, so you can just use it as a reference. Let me show you a couple of the projects that are in the book. This is my little needle book, and this is a sampler that I made. I just stitched a bunch of my favorite bugs from the book, and the instructions are going to be in the back of the book. You can make the needle book your own. Also, I have a little sampler that I made from the book, and this is something that you can just practice your stitches. It's not a big project, but a way for you to stitch some of the bugs, and I've got a few here, and I also show you how to stitch some of the flowers that are in the book. I also stitched this little mini flower garden. I've done a few different flowers, and I've also added some of my bees to that. You could also make the eyeglass case. We've got kits for that. And you can stitch any bugs that you like, anything from the book. And I just chose some bees, some butterflies, and these cute little garden bugs. I have 32 original designs for you to stitch your own bugs, plus 2 bonus projects. You can purchase my book on Wonderfil's website and my website at westcoastwool.com. Be sure and follow me on Instagram and Facebook at West Coast Wool, and tag me in the beautiful bugs that you make. Happy stitching!
Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more great tips, tricks, and tutorials. You can also sign up for our weekly newsletter to get the first look at free projects, sewing tips, and inspiring tutorials delivered right to your inbox. Check out the description box below to sign up, as well as find a list of stores and retailers that you can purchase Wonderfil threads from in your country.